Hello everyone, welcome back to Mr. YumYum's Trip Report, sharing my adventures and travels to exciting destinations and events with you. I already covered my first visit into Hong Kong Disneyland in my previous video where I travelled from Australia to Hong Kong and spent the afternoon in the park. And I originally planned to make this series day by day, but I'm having some time constraints and honestly I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed with all the videos I have to get to. So I've decided to break it down into each destination rather than doing it each individual day. So let's talk about my visit to Hong Kong Disneyland. The park is definitely modelled after the classic Disneyland style with the old school Main Street architecture and that very old-fashioned vibe. The entrance is definitely a bit smaller than you might expect compared to some of the other Disney parks, but it has a really nice charm and it's really special to see the train going past the entrance. Main Street itself is a little bit smaller, but it still has a lot of things to do. And of course, the castle is pretty incredible. I'm a huge fan of the design that they chose. It wasn't always so large. When the park originally opened, it was a lot smaller, and they eventually upgraded it and made it much larger and intricate. You can also see the hills in the background, which is very unique. It's something you don't get at any of the other parks around the world. I wasn't sure how I would feel about this initially, but I was actually a really big fan of this. It kind of added to the immersion in a weird way. The hills almost felt like part of the park itself. Hong Kong Disneyland has 7 different areas, and during the time we visited, the new World of Frozzen area was set to open, and we were hoping to catch a soft opening, which, spoilers, we did, but I'll come back to that soon. The other areas include Fantasyland, Adventureland, Grizzly Gulch, Mystic Point, Toy Story Land, and Tomorrowland. We were visiting during the Christmas season in November, and the park had a lot of really nice Christmas decorations around, including a huge Christmas tree on Main Street, which was a lovely photo opportunity, and lots of ornaments and wreaths and Christmas lights hanging around. It's really special to visit a Disney park during one of the holiday seasons, and Christmas time is probably one of my favorite holidays, so it was very special to see the park like this. They also had some special shows playing in front of the castle, which were really cool, themed to Christmas. It's pretty amazing standing in front of the castle and watching a huge show like this, where all of your favorite characters are coming out and doing a fun dance and song. I think there were a couple of different shows, and we saw these quite a few times during our trip. So let's go through each different area of the park and cover my thoughts on the rides, attractions, and other experiences. The first area we went to was Fantasyland, making our way through the castle. On the way, there's a really cool fountain and water display with Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. These are the little details that really make Disney parks shine. It's all the landscaping and plants and gardens and things. Making our way under the castle, you get a really cool first impression of Fantasyland, which is very reminiscent of some of the other Fantasylands around the world. You've got a lot of the classic attractions like the carousel, Dumbo, Winnie the Pooh. You also get a really cool view of the other side of the castle here, which again is what Disney does so well. You get like a 360-degree immersive experience. My family has a tradition to always head straight to Fantasyland, and for some reason we always ride It's a Small World as our first Disney ride at whatever park we're visiting. And this time was no exception, so we made our way to It's a Small World. The ride facade for It's a Small World is such an iconic thing, with all the different moving parts, the kinetic energy, the ticking clock sound. The queue itself is enormous, and it takes quite a while to walk through. As you reach the station, you're met with that nice familiar Disney water ride smell, which I cannot describe. It's something that all of the water rides at Disney parks seem to have. My favorite being Pirates of the Caribbean. If I could bottle that up and smell it all day, I would be addicted. The ride length is actually really long compared to some of the other versions of It's a Small World. I think it goes on for about 10 minutes. And it's really special to go around and see all the different countries and nationalities represented. I felt very patriotic seeing New Zealand and Australia pop up. Of course, the music does get stuck in your head. Disney made one of the world's catchiest songs. Anyway, solid ride on It's a Small World. Nearby they've also got a fantastic show called Mickey and the Wondrous Book, which I absolutely adored. This show was incredible. I wasn't able to film much of it on this trip, but I did get some great recordings of it on my next trip, so stay tuned for a future trip report when I visited during Halloween time. We didn't ride all of the attractions in Fantasyland during our trip to Hong Kong Disneyland. Like I said, it is a small park, regardless of its size. We didn't quite get to do everything at the park, even though we wanted to. There was some stuff that we sort of prioritized above other attractions, and even after visiting twice now, there's still stuff I haven't experienced at this park, and they're adding new attractions and rides and things, so there's plenty of stuff to look forward to in the future. My favorite attraction in Fantasyland is the Winnie the Pooh ride. It's such a wholesome and really nice experience. I love the storybook theming. You're passing through these pages and experiencing moments and scenes out of a book, and it's got a really nice nostalgic feel, and it's very comforting and wholesome. I love Winnie the Pooh's character. He's such a great role model, just chilled out and enjoys each moment as it comes and eats lots of honey. They've also got the PhilharMagic show in Fantasyland, which is awesome. I was blown away by this. I didn't know anything about this attraction. It's a sort of 3D, 4D show where Donald Duck takes over an orchestra and it all goes wrong, and he goes through all these different Disney films. What's really special about this attraction is the screen size. Originally you think it's going to be a normal movie theater sort of screen size, but then the curtains open up and it goes into this huge sort of wraparound screen that really encapsulates your whole field of vision. And the 3D effects are done really well. Probably some of the best 3D I've ever seen. It really does feel like everything's popping out of the screen and you could touch it. And they've got these incredible smell pods. Everything smells amazing. There's a moment from Beauty and the Beast where it's the Be Our Guest song, and I think some champagne bottles or something pop, and you can smell this really nice sweet smell. But my favorite part of the show is the end, when Donald Duck flies out of the screen and suddenly this animatronic lights up at the back of the theater of Donald stuck in the wall. It's such a funny little gag. They've got a few different dining options available in Fantasyland. There's one that has a sort of food court area with a few different options to choose from. There's definitely something for each culture. You can get like pasta and pizza, or you can also get Chinese style food, and also like roast beef and gravy and that kind of thing. The food at Hong Kong Disneyland is very expensive. I think Hong Kong in general is a pretty expensive place, and it can be quite surprising the amount of money you have to pay to get some of the dishes. Although they are delicious and very high quality, it does make you really savor each mouthful because it costs so much money. There's also a restaurant mainly targeted towards Chinese guests, and we did try this as well. It was very good. It definitely catered towards different taste buds that I wasn't used to, but as someone called Mr. YumYum, I usually like to try lots of different types of food. Next, let's move along to Adventureland. I didn't originally think I would love Adventureland so much, but I think it fits in perfectly with the Hong Kong climate, which is quite humid and warm. I don't really cope too well with the heat, so all the shade from the trees was a huge relief for me. It turned the humidity into something quite pleasant. Our visit to Adventureland was my first time actually experiencing a jungle cruise attraction. It's a really relaxing ride going around the river, which goes around the Tarzan's treehouse. You see all kinds of animals, from elephants and hippopotamus, among others, and there's an awesome finale with this old ancient temple with these amazing fire effects, which are very intense. It's a great way to finish the show, and it's very exciting. They've also got the Lion King show in Adventureland, which was one of the absolute highlights of our trip to Hong Kong Disneyland. This show blew me away. I thought it was incredible. The theater itself is like a 360-degree theater, so generally speaking, wherever you sit, you get a pretty good view of the show, and you don't really miss out on much. The show itself does get very busy, and you do have to get there a little bit ahead of time because the crowds are so big, and when the gates open to get inside the theater, there's a bit of a rush, and it can get a little bit intense. If you're traveling with younger guests or older guests, I definitely recommend trying to get there early enough so you can be ahead of the crowd and not get lost in the stampede like in The Lion King. The show itself is really moving and powerful. The Lion King story is something I've always really connected with, and during the time of our visit I was sort of thinking a lot about the themes in the film, that sort of coming of age type story. It really resonated with me. I found it to be very powerful and inspiring, and the performers and dancers and everyone is so talented. There's so much stuff going on in this show. You really do have to experience it a few times to get the full scale of it. There's some really nice food to eat at the restaurant in Adventureland, and I enjoyed a curry at the restaurant, which was super delicious, and the portion size was very generous considering how much you have to pay for some of the food options here at Hong Kong Disneyland. There was a really cool vending machine as well in Adventureland that kept doing some kind of music. Things were lighting up and moving around, and such a cool little detail for something that a lot of parks would not even consider theming. Next, let's move along to Grizzly Gulch, which is Hong Kong Disneyland's equivalent of what you might see in places like Frontierland at some of the other Disney parks. I'm not sure why they opted for something so different from the other parks, considering how much of this park is really modeled after that classic Disneyland vibe. But I was actually a really big fan of what they went for with Grizzly Gulch. It's kind of like cowboy themed. It's quite a small area, and the main attraction here is Big Grizzly Mountain Runaway Mine Trains, which is Hong Kong Disneyland's equivalent of Big Thunder Mountain. It's a Vekoma family coaster with some really cool elements, some surprising forces as well. I absolutely love this ride. It's probably one of my favorites at Hong Kong Disneyland. You start going forwards on a relatively slow coaster section until you reach a lift hill, which you climb up, and then the train drops backwards and you go through a backwards section until you reach a little cave, and when you look up you see that these bears are playing around with dynamite, and suddenly this really loud sound goes off and the whole cave lights up with the dynamite exploding, and it goes into a pretty intense launch, all things considered for a family coaster like this, which I was surprised by the force of this launch. It actually goes pretty fast. I wouldn't call this coaster intense in general. It's maybe a little deceptively more forceful than you might expect given the appearance of it, because it is very well integrated into the landscape of Grizzly Gulch. It kind of weaves and winds around the area, going under and over and around. It's not like Big Thunder Mountain, which kind of towers as a centerpiece of the area. It's sort of more a part of the landscape, which I find really unique and I find very creative, and I can definitely see why they went for something different. You can get some really cool shots of the coaster as well, and it interacts with the area in very interesting ways. We went on Big Grizzly Mountain Runaway Mine Trains quite a few times during our trip. I think the first time we went on it was in the evening. The lighting here is really atmospheric, and during that time of night obviously the humidity is cooled down a bit, so it's a really great time to experience the attraction, and it's very magical. There's also a really cool viewing area where you can see the launch and the track changing, which is a lot of fun. You get to interact with some of the people riding the attraction, and everyone's always waving at you and laughing and shouting things out. It's a lot of fun and always puts a big smile on my face. Grizzly Gulch is quite small, but there are lots of interactive elements here, some water games and things, and there's a lot of geysers that spraying water up in the air around the area. It's really designed for the whole family. You don't have to go on the coaster to enjoy your time in this space. They do have a quick service dining option here. I tried the chicken nuggets here, and I wasn't a huge fan. It wasn't quite what I was used to with chicken nuggets down here in Australia and New Zealand. It had quite a different taste, which I wasn't expecting, and I didn't feel like it had much flavor. I had to add quite a bit of salt to it. I wouldn't recommend this particular dining option. Next, for the absolute highlight of Hong Kong Disneyland, Mystic Point, and this whole area is basically dedicated to Mystic Manor, which is one of the coolest attractions I've ever been on, and that first reveal is breathtaking. Our first experience of this attraction was getting off of Big Grizzly Mountain Runaway Mine Trains, and it was just starting to get dark. It was sort of twilight. You get this amazing first impression of the facade. I can't even really describe the atmosphere and magic from seeing it for the first time. Probably my favorite ride facade in the world, I think. It's so cool. I love anything spooky and scary and kind of gothic, and I love this twist on the Haunted Mansion Phantom Manor tradition at most of the other Disney parks. It was really cool to see them put a unique twist on this. The experience for Mystic Manor begins before you even see the attraction, just the lead up to it and the reveal, and as you enter the queue there's all kinds of paintings and artifacts around to look at, and this amazing diorama of Mystic Manor itself. Halfway through the queue you enter a pre-show room, which is a nice way to break up the pace. Here you learn the story of Mystic Manor on a slideshow from Henry Mystic, the owner. and you also meet Alfred, this little lovable monkey, and then you enter another area of the queue and into the station itself. Honestly, even just going in the queue itself would be an amazing experience. And then there's the ride itself, which is a trackless dark ride. You can experience this ride on a couple of different paths. You don't get to choose which path you experience, it's kind of randomized, so it definitely is something you need to rewrite multiple times. I won't spoil too much, there's so much stuff to look at in this ride. The story is amazing, it's really fun, and of course the soundtrack by Danny Elfman is incredible. There was also a dining experience here in Mystic Point, which we didn't experience during this trip. We did try it out the next time we come to Hong Kong Disneyland, so I won't spoil it this time. You have to wait until my next Hong Kong Disneyland video for that one. Next, let's move along to Toy Story Land, which I always really wanted to visit when I heard about Hong Kong Disneyland as a kid. I was a huge Toy Story fan. I still am, I love Toy Story, but as a kid I was pretty crazy about it, and I was super excited that there was a land themed to Toy Story and it looked amazing. This is such a fun spot in the park. The attractions here are sort of more like flat ride style attractions. The theming is pretty simplistic and kind of minimalistic, but it works really well because the area is designed for you to feel like you've been shrunken down from your human size to toy size. Yeah, this area is just so much fun. My favorite attraction here was the Slinky Dog ride, which is a little flat ride that goes around in a circle, up and down a hill. It's got a very like bouncy sort of movement to it, which is really fun, and a super catchy song as well. We also went on the RC Racer coaster thing, and this was pretty fun. The ride cycle itself was really short and the queue time took ages. It was like 40 minutes. I wasn't overly impressed by it. I think if the ride cycle was a little bit longer I might have given this a few more rewrites, but unfortunately it just took too long and it only went for about 30 seconds. But unexpectedly, the highlight of Toy Story Land was actually the food that you can get at this little quick service stand. You can get these sort of Dole Whip slushies. Dole Whip is a very iconic food at Disney parks. It's like pineapple ice cream, and it's really refreshing and delicious. And this slushy version of it was extremely addictive. It was the perfect thing to eat on a really hot day. We definitely had this quite a few times. It was kind of the go-to thing because, as I said, the prices for food in Hong Kong Disney are very expensive, and this was very reasonable. Another thing that I also discovered on my trip to Hong Kong Disneyland was an addiction to fruit salad, because the fruit salad at Hong Kong Disneyland is mind-blowing for some reason, and it's another reasonably priced option that's very refreshing on the hot days. I ate so much fruit salad that when I got back to Australia I became addicted to fruit salad, and fruit salad became my go-to snack. I lost like 15 kilos just because I enjoyed eating fruit salad so much. They also have churros here, which are delicious. They're like chocolate dipped churros. I could eat a billion of these probably, but I probably should stick to the fruit salad. Moving along into Tomorrowland, which is another classic area of any Disney park. Tomorrowland in Hong Kong Disneyland features a couple of the iconic Tomorrowland attractions such as Orbitron and Space Mountain. The Space Mountain has the Star Wars overlay, which was really fun. As a huge Star Wars fan, it was awesome to experience this attraction, and it ended up being one of our favorite rides at the park. We went on this a few times, and it's the kind of ride that just has you screaming and having fun and shouting out stupid stuff and laughing. The Star Wars overlay, I thought, worked really well. It's kind of projected onto the roof of the dome structure, and the Star Wars music, of course, is an awesome addition. It's just a lot of fun and a really solid coaster with lots and lots of helixes and sudden abrupt drops that you don't expect. Since it is indoors, I think some people might get a little bit intimidated by the prospect of this coaster. I can assure you it's definitely a very family-friendly coaster. It's not overly intense, and it's something I feel like most of the family can enjoy. I definitely recommend experiencing this. A lot of the Tomorrowland area of Hong Kong Disneyland is themed to Marvel properties. They've got a couple of attractions here that are totally unique to Hong Kong Disneyland. In this area you can also see a lot of meet and greets happening with Marvel characters. During the time we were visiting, I believe Miss Marvel had just come out, so she was around quite a lot, and I think Captain Marvel as well. Also, they had Stitch and Stitch's girlfriend here for Christmas, which was awesome. This was a really cool meet and greet, and they were so cute. You've got the Ant-Man shooting game style attraction, which is is a very unique ride for Hong Kong Disneyland. They don't have this anywhere else in the world. It's very much like the Buzz Lightyear shooting game attraction. I wasn't really blown away by this ride. I'm not huge on Marvel as such. I was a big fan back in the day, but I've kind of got superhero fatigue now. They just come and go. There's so many films and TV shows, so you can't keep up with them. I don't really have as much of a personal connection to the brand or IP as I used to. The Iron Man ride, however, on the other hand, was really, really fun. This is a Star Tours style attraction, which is also unique to Hong Kong Disneyland, where there's some kind of technology expo in Hong Kong, where I think Iron Man is testing some kind of like flying machine thing or something. I apologize for the awful explanation of this ride. And something goes wrong in Hong Kong City and Iron Man's busy and you have to go out and help save the day. And this was so much fun. The theming all works very well. The pacing is awesome. There's a lot of humor and funny moments, and it is quite forceful and does kind of feel like you're actually flying around, which is really fun. There's a great moment where the ship is firing some kind of bullet or something, or light beam or whatever at the big robot creature. The whole ship kind of like thrusts backwards, which was a great effect. And it's also got some 3D, which works pretty well. I did feel a little bit motion sick riding this, so if you do get motion sickness, that's something to be aware of. But I do think it's worth checking out maybe once, even if you do get a little bit queasy, because it is a lot of fun. They've also got the Starliner Diner in Hong Kong Disneyland, which gets very, very busy. This is where you get like burgers and things, and the burgers are all themed to Marvel superheroes. There's like a Hulk burger and an Iron Man burger. Not sure I would recommend eating here because it does get so busy. You really have to wait a very long time to get the food. It's not the best food in the world. It's kind of what you would expect from any burger. It's fine. There's definitely a bit of novelty, but I feel like there's better food options to choose from in the park. There's lots of quick service stations around Hong Kong Disneyland where you can get things like popcorn and turkey legs, and they also have soy sauce chicken leg, which I did try, and I was actually really pleasantly surprised by this. It was very reasonably priced, and they give you plastic gloves to eat it with so you don't make a mess. On Main Street, they've also got Starbucks and a little bakery, and this is very important to keep in mind if you want coffee or caffeine of any kind outside of like Pepsi or Coke or whatever. This is the only place in the park that you can actually get tea or coffee, I believe. If you're a caffeine addict, that's very important to keep in mind because it can be a little bit of a long walk back to the front if you're in some of the other areas and you need to get your fix. And especially when it gets busier, you really have to work your way through the crowds. It's also important to note that the Starbucks and the bakery also get very busy, and it can be challenging to find seating in this area. There's a little courtyard space where you can sit at a table, but there's only a handful of tables here and they're usually taken. One nice thing I noticed in Hong Kong was that other guests were usually very welcoming and willing to share a table with you, which, you know, sometimes over here in Australia, if you did that, it would be very awkward and it doesn't feel like something that most people would even consider, but it happened multiple times where people spotted us looking for a place to sit and just welcomed us over, and it was very friendly of them to do that, and it didn't feel awkward or strange at all. We just sat down and shared the table and didn't have to worry too much about making small talk or anything. Yeah, I thought that was awesome. While we're here on Main Street, let's take a moment to talk about the train as well, which is definitely a must-do on your visit to Hong Kong Disneyland. This train goes all around the park to a couple of different stops, and it's a little bit different to trains you might be used to at other parks because rather than having seats that look out on both sides of the train, this one only looks out on one side. It looks inwards into the park. It's almost like a theater or something, which is a little bit unique. It's a very relaxing attraction at the park. It's a great way to get around if you've got younger guests traveling with you or older guests. It's a good way to have a little sitting break and a cool way to see the park as well. And on Main Street they also have the parade, which is a lot of fun. It's definitely worth checking out during your trip. I will say it's a lot smaller than you might be used to with other parades at different theme parks. There's only about 3 or 4 floats, but it is a lot of fun. You see some of the iconic Disney characters. The dancers are really energetic and excited and interactive, and the music is extremely catchy and addictive. I think this takes place a few times during the day. I would recommend seeing it earlier in the day, especially if you're on Main Street, because in the afternoon the sun is really glaring down and you'll see a lot of experienced guests standing on one side of the street where it's shady, and you see the other side and you think, oh great, it's all clear, but then you realize why no one wants to stand in the glaring sun and getting all burnt, and yeah, it's not the most comfortable spot to stand. So go for the shady side if you are watching it in the afternoon, and if not, make sure to go in the morning. And for the final area of Hong Kong Disneyland, as I mentioned, we were very lucky to get an early look into the World of Frozzen, which was brand new. It literally was soft opening, and we got there in the evening one night, and boy oh boy is this a magical little area. It's such a picturesque, photogenic, beautiful place, and so atmospheric and magical with all the lights and the music, and it's sort of surrounding this little lake area with the castle in the distance, and across the lake you can see the coaster, Wandering Oaken's sliding sleighs. You can see Anna and Elsa and other Frozen characters and musicians and magicians in this area, and there's a lot to do. There's really something for everyone. It's definitely a very family focused land in the park, and even though it was only a soft opening, the queue times for the rides here were pretty crazy. We had to wait a very long time to get on Wandering Oaken's sliding sleighs, which wasn't too bad because the queue is very nice and very immersive. There's lots of interesting stuff to look at. The coaster itself is very well themed, but it's super short. I definitely recommend trying to get on this ride when the queue time isn't too long, if you can, because you could probably use the time queuing at peak time to maybe get on a few of the rides that aren't too long to wait for at the same time. I've also got the Frozen Ever After boat ride, which is really cool. It's an amazing dark boat ride that takes you through the story of Frozen. I really love this attraction. It's a lot of fun hearing the iconic Frozen soundtrack and songs, and it's got a couple of little drops which are not too intense, definitely family friendly, and just a nice ride with some amazing animatronics. The food in the World of Frozzen is pretty incredible. They've got this great restaurant with some really cool dining options. I actually went for this kids meal which came with a little selection of things to choose from. There's also a dessert shop in the World of Frozzen where you can get some really cool desserts themed to the snow monster and Olaf, and there's a lot of delicious stuff to choose from here. Very, very tasty. I would say this area of the park is definitely best enjoyed at nighttime when all the lights are on and you get the beautiful reflections on the lake. It can get quite busy in the daytime and there's not a lot of shade, so when it gets hot it can be quite uncomfortable to stand around here. The park at nighttime has such a magical atmosphere. It really feels like a different place. It really feels like you're in a different world, and there's so much stuff to look at and enjoy. It's definitely a park best enjoyed with friends or family, people that are really special to you. I was super grateful to visit this park with my family. We had some amazing memories, and it's stuff I'm going to remember for a long time. It was such a lovely experience, and it wouldn't be a visit to a Disney park without experiencing one of the nighttime spectaculars, and that's a great way to describe this show at Hong Kong Disneyland. It truly was a nighttime spectacular. It was amazing. We saved watching this show for our last night at the park, and I didn't even bother filming it because on some of the previous nights when we caught glimpses of it, I knew how big it was going to be, and I knew that I couldn't really capture it on the camera. But having said that, I did visit last year as well, so here's some footage I shot on that trip. This show is really beautiful even before the show starts. It's got an amazing pre-show with like a clock counting down for the show to start, and there's amazing projection mapping onto the castle depicting iconic Disney iconography and moments from films and IPs that you're familiar with. The show itself is really special and moving. I was surprised how emotional it made me because I wasn't expecting it to actually have a storyline. I just thought it would be maybe some projections and classic songs and some fireworks, but this actually really has a beautiful message and thematic behind it. The whole show covers the life cycle from birth and adolescence to adulthood and death, and the core message of the show is enjoying the memories and time you have with the people around you while you have them. The message really hit hard with me because I was visiting with some of my family, and it was a really special time. It was exciting visiting a new country together and experiencing a new park that we've always wanted to visit, creating special memories and experiences that we'll all look back on for a long time. Yeah, so the show made me very emotional. I remember after it ended walking back to the hotel, and the whole time I couldn't stop crying. It was a very profound show for me, and it feels kind of cringy a little bit or corny or whatever as a grown man to be crying at Disney shows, but it really was special, and I think that's also part of what makes the Disney parks special is you can kind of open yourself up a little bit more to some of those feelings that you might not think about on a day-to-day basis when you're kind of bogged down by work or other responsibilities. When you come to a Disney park, you can really let loose and have a little bit more fun and be silly and kind of capture some of that childlike sense of wonder again, which was something that was very profound and special for me, because I thought that, okay, now I'm an adult, you know, those days are gone. But no, they weren't. I came to the park and I kind of rediscovered that side of myself, and it's been actually a big influence into this channel. I never really considered taking this channel so far, and I think this trip was actually a big step towards that, because it opened me up to things that maybe I'd been putting off or holding back because it felt too childish or cringy or whatever. But it kind of put me in good stead, and I've loved having this channel, so I have this trip to thank for that. And yeah, I think it's important for everyone to try and keep that part of themselves going, because it's very special and it's easy to get jaded and cynical. You don't have to visit a Disney park to do that. It's just something worth thinking about. During our trip to Hong Kong Disneyland, we stayed at each of the hotels at the Hong Kong Disneyland Resort for a couple of nights, and it was really great to experience each of these hotels. They're all very special in their own right, and they've got different things that make them shine and make them unique. They're very close by to the park itself. You can walk to the park from a lot of the hotels, and they also have a shuttle that goes back and forth between the hotels and the park, which is super convenient. So let's go through each hotel that we stayed at during this trip. The first one we stayed at was the Hong Kong Disneyland Hotel, which is a beautiful, grand, colonial style building with amazing view of the water and the Hong Kong city skyline. As soon as you enter, you get this incredible first impression with the grand atrium with a huge chandelier and an old-fashioned elevator and this huge window overlooking the courtyard with this maze. This hotel feels very grand and luxurious and classical. There's all kinds of paintings and statues and mosaics and things to look at around the hotel. The rooms are incredible, very well sized with great amenities, super comfortable beds, and an awesome view of the courtyard and the water. There's a few different dining experiences here at the Hong Kong Disneyland Hotel, but the only one we experienced during our stay here was the Enchanted Garden restaurant, I believe it was called. We had breakfast here one morning at the buffet, which was fantastic. They don't call me Mr. YumYum for nothing. I had a great time rampaging around here, eating all the Mickey Mouse shaped muffins and other tasty snacks. They've also got characters roaming around the restaurant, which is really fun. It's so funny, you know, having a spoonful of breakfast and then looking up and seeing Goofy staring at you, or Mickey Mouse. The next hotel we stayed at was probably my favorite, and this was the Hollywood Hotel. And as a huge film buff and a fan of the classic golden age of Hollywood, I was blown away by this. I thought the Art Deco style architecture was awesome. The lobby is really sleek and classy, and it's got great Hollywood style film scores playing. There's a lot of stuff to look at here in this hotel. It is very much like a homage to that classic golden age of Hollywood, and if you're a film fan, I'm sure you'll love this hotel. The rooms are really nice. They're probably on the smaller side. I think this hotel is kind of probably like the budget hotel out of the three of them. It's probably the most affordable, and although the rooms were smaller, they were really nice. Again, they had that nice Art Deco style and very comfortable. There's a lot to look at inside the hotel and in the garden. They've got the Archive Bar, which is a Marvel themed bar, and I know I said earlier I wasn't crazy about Marvel, but this was really cool. There's a lot of props and things from Marvel movies like the Infinity Gauntlet and lots of other behind the scenes type stuff. And it's a very chilled out place. They've got like lo-fi hip hop versions of the Marvel music playing, and they offer bar snacks and cocktails and things here. There is another dining option, but I'll come back to that soon because it's the highlight of the whole hotel, I think. Further down the hall, there's a area where you can look at concept art and sketches for Pixar films, which is so cool. As a huge film buff, I love seeing behind the scenes stuff like this, and it really gives you an insight into the amazing talent and imagination that goes into making this kind of stuff. There's also a really cool spot with some Disney version posters of some classic Hollywood films, which was really funny. I love these. I would love to hang these up in my house. The garden is really nice. It's very grand. A lot of simple but effective theming on the pathways and things. There's also the big Hollywood sign, which is a great photo opportunity, and a big swimming pool, which looks like a lot of fun. There's also some really cool additional theming that you don't really expect to see. It's almost like being on a backlot of a film, and they've got these really cool old cars set up in this scene with a traffic light, and the cars are overlooking the waterfront. This was super cool and unexpected to see. I was a big fan of this. Alright, now for the highlight of the Hollywood Hotel. It's the Ink and Plate Buffet. This restaurant is so good. It's probably one of the best buffets I've ever had. I'm not quite sure how to explain the theme of the restaurant. It's kind of themed to like concept art and sketches and drawing and painting. It's so bright and colorful with awesome murals all over the wall, and a great color scheme. It's a very big space, and during this trip we visited at dinner time, and the food in the park is so expensive, it felt like better value to spend a little bit extra and just splurge in the buffet and just become an absolute glutton and eat so much food that the next day you wouldn't even have to think about breakfast. The selection of food here is incredible. Everything is so high quality and delicious. Some of the best food I've ever had in a buffet. Usually you expect buffet food to be subpar and just more about the quantity, but the quality was really impressive. There's a lot of options for different taste buds and palates, and some members of my family are also vegetarian, so the staff were really helpful, and the kitchen was able to come up with some special vegetarian options just for them, which they were huge fans of. Meanwhile, I was just, stuffing myself full of meat. Probably could have phrased that a better way. Yeah, some really good meat eater options here. Some very tender beef, and I'm pretty much drooling thinking about it right now. The dessert options too are really fantastic, and my favorite thing about this experience was at the end they bring you this little cookie with like a paintbrush that you can paint stuff onto the cookie like you're drawing some concept art or something. So of course I drew YumYum, and the waitress, she was a big fan of my drawing and took a picture of it, which was funny. So I absolutely recommend this buffet in particular. You have to experience this, it's so good. And the last hotel we stayed at was the Explorers Lodge Hotel, which I think is the newest hotel at the Hong Kong Disneyland Resort. And this one is a mammoth hotel. It's very, very grand and luxurious. The atrium and lobby area is so huge. It's got this massive space in the middle and a huge Christmas tree since we visited in November. There's all these bridges connecting the different parts of the lobby, and they've got like this really nice cozy lounge area to sit. There's so much stuff to look at here. You really feel like an explorer just exploring the hotel. The rooms were really big and really nice. I feel like the space is beyond generous. There's so much room here, and everything was super comfortable and just such an awesome room. There's a lot of stuff to look at around the hotel. They've got quite a few dining options, as seems to be the case at Hong Kong Disneyland. They've got stuff catered towards more of the Western palate and stuff towards the Eastern palate. We ate dinner in the World of Color restaurant, which was really nice. The food was delicious, the atmosphere was great, and the drinks were also really nice in these tiki cups. They've also got the Chart Room Cafe, which is a sort of quick food style place where you can get coffee and gelato, as well as more sort of breakfast style food in the morning. So that brings me to the end of this video about my first ever trip to Hong Kong Disneyland. What are my thoughts? I think it's an amazing park. I definitely recommend visiting and revisiting multiple times. I've been twice now, as I'll come to in my next video on Hong Kong Disneyland when we visited during Halloween time. And on that trip I got my proper camera, so it's much more nicely filmed than this one. There were so many special moments on my trip to Hong Kong Disneyland that I didn't expect, but ultimately I would say the thing that I really took away from this experience was that kind of return to more of a childlike sense of wonder and excitement of viewing the world. I feel like it really took a huge weight off my shoulders that I had probably put on myself. You can still be an adult and you can still have fun, you can still be responsible, and you can still look at the world in a new way as well, and that was really special to me. It's something kind of irreplaceable. You see a lot of people visiting these parks and everyone seems to be a little bit happier and sillier than they would be in the real world, and that makes me think it's not just limited to my experience. So for that reason I would definitely recommend visiting. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mr. YumYum's Trip Report. As I said, I'm still kind of working out the format for this series. I've been to a lot of places over the last few years and I filmed so much footage, I don't know how to get to all of it, and I was originally going to plan to do this series like day by day. I just don't have the time. I'm so busy. These videos take a long time to edit and record, and I just don't have the time to do it like that. So I hope this was enjoyable. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like, a friendly comment, or subscribe for more. A big thank you to the members and sponsors of Team YumYum for supporting my content. Thank you to the Team YumYum members: Randall, Maloney's Coasters, Kai on the Internet, Oogie Boogie, Theme Park, Ogre, Jordan Casey, Johnny Boy 175, The Downy Cat, Mika, and Carrie Jekin. And a very special thank you to the sponsors: Koala75, Audrey Allen, Senpai's JP Blue Dog, Senpai's JP Red Dog, Wayne Hewitt, Lee Donald, SWStevie1, The Kez, and Mr. WG. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.